Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome. Welcome to the September 12th Wichita Area Metropolitan Planning Organization Transportation Policy Body Meeting. Glad everyone is here today. I'm Becky Tuttle with the City of Wichita. I've had a request that we do introductions today because we have a few new people with us. And so Chairman Meitzner, would you do me the honors of maybe starting, and we'll go around here and then catch people on the sides if that's okay?
Pete Meitzner. I'm really new to all this group, so nice to be here. County Commissioner.
David Dennis, County Commissioner.
From Gerby. Yeah. And there we go. Now, I don't think, have I ever used one of these? Anyway, my replacement after 8 years, Mr. Nick Engel. Raise your hand there, Nick. And so please give him a welcome when you have a chance. Thank you. How about a hand for Jack's service? Thank you, Jack.
And as mentioned, I'm Nick Engel and I'm on the Derby City Council.
I'm Tom Jones on Park City City Council.
Good afternoon, Brian Fry, Wichita City Council.
Troy Tabor, Andover City Council.
Good afternoon, Chad Barasa, WAMPO Secretary.
They gave me a gavel. Everybody should be very worried.
Jim Benage, Mayor of Bel Air.
Russ Kessler, Mayor of Hayesville.
Mike Moriarty with the Kansas Department of Transportation.
Nick Squires, Kansas Department of Transportation.
Warren Porter, City of Rose Hill Administrator. Terry Summers, Mayor of Mount Hope, representing Sedgwick County Association of Cities. Ron Colbert, City Councilman, Valley Center. Public Works. Relikowski Trend Systems Corporation. More. WAMPO. Julian Pando, WAMPO.
Jackson Smith, WAMPO.
Kyle Thomas, WAMPO.
Dora Gallo, WAMPO. Did you get everybody? You know it by heart? I'm committed to memory. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's it. It'll be in a minute. Thank you very much. Appreciate everybody doing that, and welcome to Brothers for today. We'll go ahead and start with approval.
Sorry, we'll go ahead and start with approval of the TPB agenda for September 12th, 2023. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda for today. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Oh, no, wait, sorry, we didn't get a second. Sorry. Thank you. We had a very long city council meeting. There's been a lot of motions. I know. Sorry. So all those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Fantastic. Thank you. The motion carries. Next, approval of the TPB meeting minutes from August 8th, 2023. I'd entertain a motion to approve. Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Next, we have the director's report. Chad, wow us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, members of the Transportation Policy Body. Thank you so much for your quorum. Every meeting, you help us make the quorum and help us make important decisions. We all appreciate it, and staff is very thankful to you. We have a few items to report to you, and staff will help in reporting as well. First and foremost is Bike-Ped count volunteers. Dora Gallo. Let me request Dora to.
Thank you, Dora Gallo, Transportation Planner here at WAMPO. So every year, WAMPO hosts an annual bicycle and pedestrian count. This is going to be the 12th year, I believe. And currently, we're recruiting volunteers. It starts tomorrow, and then it goes on Thursday and then Saturday. And we've done really good this year with volunteers, but we still need a few more. We have no volunteers for Mulvane and Mount Hope, but we do need volunteers for one location, West Wichita on Saturday from 12 to 2, and then one volunteer for Derby, same time, Saturday from 12 to 2, and then one volunteer for Andover on Saturday from 12 to 2. And we appreciate everybody that has signed up so far and all the volunteers for coming in and picking up their materials. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. And if you know anybody that would like to volunteer, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dora. Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item, a couple of items, Peter Moore, our principal engineer at WAMPO, is going to present on TIP as well as ITS plan development. Thank you.
Hello. Move over here. So going to talk about the TIP bi-monthly project progress report. So our bi-monthly progress reports, it's for projects that are programmed to receive WAMPO sub-allocated funding in the current fiscal year or that have received it in the past fiscal year but are not yet finished. This is just part of our reasonable progress policy, so you're all aware of which projects are programmed but have not yet completed. So on the next page, we have the list here. You can see for this year, there's 4 projects that you have their anticipated let date up there. And yeah, not too much to say. Is there any questions on these different projects or? Okay. I'm gonna move on to the Intelligent Transportation, or ITS architecture plan. So just an update. So for our ITS plan and architecture, the general scope is where the plan will document intelligent transportation systems so that future integration deployment of such infrastructure will occur in a planned and coordinated fashion. So far, we've come up with kind of a basic timeline. We want to get the steering committee, well, we want to recommend our proposed members to our next TAC meeting this month, and then hopefully have it approved by our Transportation Policy Board, you guys, early October. We have that list of potential steering committee members. It's been updated a bit since we put it in the packet. I printed out an updated list with me if anybody would like that, but it seems to be going well. Any recommendations on steering committee members would be quite welcome. Again, we'll offer this list up for TAC recommendation, our next TAC meeting. Any questions for me on ITS? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. And I think Peter and staff is going to reach out to cities and jurisdictions that have fiber optics and network in our area. I think let's request Ashley to present next couple of items. Ashley.
Thank you. I'm Ashley Briers, Transportation Planning Manager. So we had a public outreach coordinator, Jessica Hutton, who did amazing things on social media. She has since left us, so we're now filling the position, but I will give her social media report. So she helped us expand and improve all of our social media, and we really increased our numbers. So we improved by 385% in reach and 245% in engagement, which I think is pretty darn amazing for about a 90-day period. And we are working on these strategies in order to try to use our public participation plan and increase awareness, involvement, and form people and interest in our planning processes. So there is a fairly lengthy report in your agenda if you're interested in this kind of information. So then the next item is the Regional Transit Implementation Plan Update and Steering Committee. We, or TPB, signed a contract with SRF Consulting Group with Nelson Nygaard and Shockey Consulting in July to develop this plan. And it includes these tasks here, looking at the history of transit in the WAMPO region, creating a regional transit feasibility report, doing a future conditions and scenarios report, And looking at these steps to establish a regional transit authority, developing an implementation plan, and then development of and executing of a plan and agreement between transit providers. This has been a discussion for a long time, and so we really wanted to have action and try to move forward with getting people transit and connecting across the whole WAMPO area. We are forming a steering committee at this moment, and so if you have any ideas of who should be on the steering committee, please let us know. We do have the UCTC, or the United Community Transit Coalition, and those members are listed in this blue table here. So they'll be part of it. And then we're also looking for additional people to be part of the process. We know that we want to include some workforce agencies because transit is a really big workforce issue. So we're going to be including REAP, Workforce Alliance, and the Greater Wichita Partnership. And also Brent Clark from Valley Center called me and asked to participate after he saw the staff report. So if there are others, please let us know. We'll be coming back to you to approve this steering committee in October. Chad, do you have any comments about that?
No, thank you, Ashley. I just want to share that it's many are excited about this project because our Commissioner Pete Mertner also is passionate about how we provide alternative, not just automobile, like, you know, transit and passenger rail and various modes of transportation for our region. In 1 year, we want to address certain important questions like, you know, how does the Federal Transit Administration, FTA funds are possible for remote and rural areas of the region? How does that look like to have a seamless transportation system for transit as well? For example, we have Wichita Transit, Hayesville Hustle, and Derby Dash. How do we have these several providers of transit in a way, a person traveling from Derby to Amazon, as an example, can seamlessly go from home to work. So we have several questions that we hope the consulting firm answers. And then this steering committee would, make sure that these questions are answered, and the consulting firm does a due diligence on, how does that look like, a seamless transit system, and what are the funding opportunities? How does the match potential are, for example, for federal transit funds? Is the local match adequate? Is there a statewide funding that can be complemented to the local match? So a variety of options we want to, get those answers in. And thanks to Ashley and staff for taking this lead on this project as well. Really, we are excited to invite any steering committee members that are, seeking these answers, and have the consulting firm get those answers for us. Thank you, Ashley.
Okay, so then my last item to present is Safe Routes to School. WAMPO has federal fiscal year 2024 Transportation Alternatives Funding, or TA funding, to assist jurisdictions with developing Safe Routes to School plans. So we emailed all the jurisdictions a couple weeks ago to give a heads up that we're going to be working on this. And then last Friday, emailed out an application for jurisdictions to submit by September 22nd. It's not a super in-depth application, but just so we can get a feel for who else is interested in participating in this process, because we have $200,000 for this. But if we get interest from way more jurisdictions than we can fund, we need to somehow prioritize it. So that's what we'll be working on, is figuring out which districts and jurisdictions we will be working on with first, and then in year 2, and etc. This does require a 20% local match, and we're very excited about this process. So any questions about Safe Routes? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashley.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ashley. Next few items we have, we start with innovation and presentations. We have a theme this year on innovations in technology. We are excited to have AJ Wilson from KDOT today. He'll be presenting later on in the agenda, mainly how the technology is used in monitoring our infrastructure and conditions. And then after that item, we have a few items on the agenda that has grants and programs. If any jurisdiction would like to explore some of those grants and the funding potential and opportunities, WAMPO staff is happy to assist in providing support letters or in any form, those steps. And there's also cost share from KDOT as well, as you all know that program. With that, since we have a lot going on today agenda, I'll turn back this to our chair. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chad, and to all staff. I appreciate all you do. Next on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone here today from the public who would like to make 3 minutes per individual about something they're interested in? Or not you, Chairman. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item, action item A, 2023 UPWP amendment number 3. And it looks like Ashley and Chad.
Thank you. So the UPWP, or Unified Planning Work Program, is our budget. And we normally develop this every year, get it approved in about November, December, and then have to make adjustments when things come up. And so this is our third adjustment for this year, which is kind of high, but it was necessary. So we went through the process. This amendment includes the KDOT K-15 corridor management plan. So WAMPO will be contributing $50,000 towards that project. It also includes the City of Wichita's Reconnecting Communities Pilot Grant project for the 21st Street corridor. They received some federal funding, and because it's planning work, even though it won't be WAMPO's main work, it needed to be in our UPWP. And then addressing food access concerns and adjusting the budget based on those changes. If this amendment is approved, the CPG and local match expenditures will total just about $2.5 million. This went through a 15-day public comment period. We did not receive any public comments. TAC recommended approval at their August meeting, and now we're here today. So the action options are to approve as presented, not approve, or approve with specific changes. And TAC recommended approving as presented. And there is one quick thing I just remembered. Tomorrow, I will be processing an administrative adjustment to this UPWP because we need to move $28,000 from one project to another project, but because it's such a small number, we can just do it as an administrative adjustment. So we'll put it on the next agenda so you can see that it's happened. But wanted to give you a heads up on that. Any questions on this?
Any questions for Ashley? Oh, okay. Okay. Seeing none, I will make the motion to approve the 2023 UPW3 amendment number 3. Is there a second to this motion? Thank you, Tom. All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for presenting the information. Next on the agenda, I am very excited that we have the Kansas Department of Transportation update with the new Secretary Kelvin Reed. I'm going to read a real quick bio, and then we'll let Secretary Reed do a presentation. Unfortunately, he couldn't join us today in person, but we're glad to have him at least virtually. So Kelvin is the Secretary of Kansas Department of Transportation. Governor Laura Kelly appointed him to this position in June of 2023 after he served as the acting secretary for 6 months at the governor's request. Kelvin started with KDOT in 2022. Bridge designer and has served his entire career in the transportation industry, including over 5 years in the private sector as an engineering consultant. Prior to assuming leadership of the agency, Secretary Reed had served as the senior director and division director for engineering and design at KDOT. Secretary Reed graduated with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering and a master's degree in civil engineering, both from Kansas State University. So welcome to WAMPO, and we'll look from you.
Hey, it was cutting out a little on my end. Can you guys hear me okay? Can somebody give me a confirmation that you guys can hear me?
You're good, just a bad mic.
Okay, all right, very good. Hey, well, thank you, Becky. Thank you, Chad, for the invitation to speak today. Very excited. I'm really sorry I couldn't be down in Wichita today. Lots of things going on up here in Topeka, trying to manage a lot of things, but I do appreciate the opportunity to speak a little bit about what's going on here at KDOT. One thing that I'll say is I know I have a pretty short time frame to talk here, so I'm going to try to talk less, and I do want to hear some feedback from the folks at WAMPO, just to hear what's going on, what you guys, what kind of feedback you have for KDOT. I'd also like to thank, I know there's several KDOT staff down at the meeting. I'd just like to thank KDOT staff for being there. I think it's important that we have partnerships with groups like WAMPO to really get the most out of what we do with transportation and benefit our communities. So for those that don't know and have not been involved in transportation, we are in the year 3 or just completed year 3 of the Eisenhower Legacy Transportation Program, IKE. And you know, the IKE legislation had several legislative targets that KDOT was supposed to meet. Some of them were targets for the end of the program, but a few of those targets were really meant for the middle of the program. My first thing, I'd just like to happily report to everybody that we are on track to meet our legislative targets for the mid-year or mid-program investments. I'm not going to go over what exactly each of those targets is, but there were regional targets that we were supposed to meet in terms of investments for preservation and modernization and expansion work. We have let almost $1.8 billion worth of preservation projects in the first 3 years of the program. And over $270 million of that is in South Central Kansas. This is a real focus of the program, and it's really near and dear to my heart. As you heard, I'm an engineering background, and my background was also in bridges. And I can go on and on about the need for investment in bridges right now. And I'll talk a little bit about that here in a little bit, but it's really important to me that we as a state continue to invest in the system that we have and make sure that it is serving the public's needs. In terms of modernization and expansion projects, we have over $1.8 billion committed to our construction pipeline. And of that, about $700 million of that is currently under construction, including one very large project down in the Wichita area, which is phase 2 of the Wichita North Junction project. It's a very exciting project. I've actually had the pleasure of working on that in many phases of my career, and just really excited to see that come to fruition. I know we opened up the first phase of the project earlier this year. Great ribbon cutting ceremony down there. And I know just from my personal experience of having been in Wichita in the last few months that ramp carrying northbound I-135 to southbound I-235 is an amazing improvement and a great benefit to the community. So like I said, we have about $1.8 billion in the construction pipeline. $501 million of that is in South Central Kansas, and a lot of that is really centered around the Wichita area. And like I said, we have about $159 million worth of work under construction right now in the Wichita area. So in terms of kind of the big budget items, revenues are up. They have been up for the last 3 years of the program. 3-year revenues are up about 17% from what we originally estimated in the program. So we had originally estimated by this time that we would have taken in about $4.3 billion in revenue, and in actuality, for the first 3 years of the program, we've taken in almost $5.0 billion in revenue. And so that's about a 17% increase. Unfortunately, as most of us know, inflation has also been up, and has really eaten at what any additional work that we could do with that additional revenue. So from 2020 to 2022, KDOT saw about a 45% increase in our most common bid items, which is just a tremendous increase. Luckily, what we can tell you is that we have seen a leveling off, not a decrease in prices, but at least a leveling off of prices. So we're better able to plan looking ahead. I think what we're going to be able to do with the revenues that are going to be coming in through the program. So at this point, what I would feel comfortable saying is that we believe that with the increased revenue and the increased inflation, that we really feel comfortable in saying that we think we will be able to do the amount of work that we originally estimated in the program. Not a lot more, but probably not less either. So that is good news. Maybe not as good as what some people would expect when we have higher than expected revenues. But I think it is important to know that we are committed to really delivering what was originally scoped out for the program. So just in terms of focusing on our preservation, that really is what the primary goal of the program was. We needed to make sure that we were continuing to deliver preservation projects and taking good care of our system. So we anticipate about a $600 million a year investment in preservation, with about 130 million of that going to our bridges. Like I said, bridges are becoming more and more of a concern. I am keeping pretty close track of our state system bridges. But another part of the conversation that has really come up in the last few months and really started when BIL was passed is our local bridge system. Many of you might have seen that Governor Kelly and I were in Dodge City a week and a half ago, and we were there to kick off the next round of awards for the local bridge improvement program. The local bridge improvement program coming out of the Ike task force was a extremely popular program amongst our counties and our cities, and really because it addressed issues that they were not able to get to, or that they were having trouble being able to fund. And so what we were able to do with that program, with additional money through BIL, and just so everybody's clear, we through BIL received $45 million per year for 5 years to tackle bridges. And it was the money was specifically set aside for bridges. In fact, the first time that the federal government has had a program that was specifically to address bridges of this magnitude. And so $225 million over 5 years. That money could be spent on any bridge in the state of Kansas. But we know that we through Ike have been able to invest in our state system bridges. And really it was time to invest in our local bridges, because we know they are extremely important for the commerce, agriculture, and just really the way of life of rural Kansans. So by essentially taking that $45 million and investing it on state system bridges, which sounds counterintuitive to what I just said, we've been able to displace an equal amount of state funds to be able to distribute to locals and award to locals to address their local bridges. Really, it tackles two things. One, it is increasing the amount that we're investing in local bridges, but it is doing a little bit of a fund swap and turning it into state dollars, which are just much easier for our locals to be able to administer. It's been a very popular program. We had over $200 million in applications this year for bridges. And I will say just a caveat on this also, I think something that is extremely smart about how we set up this program is that we have incentivized our counties to be able to make decisions about some of the other bridges on their system. We know we have a lot of poor condition bridges on our system. We are incentivizing them by decreasing their match to this program, their local match, if they're willing to take off some square footage of poor condition bridges somewhere on their system. So it's really a way to, not only address the high priority bridges on the county system, but also start looking at some of the other bridges and just completely remove them from the system if they're not high priority or serve a long-term need. Extremely popular program. I really look forward to seeing the outcomes of this program after the next 4 to 5 years. And then I just want to end with this. Just in the last couple of weeks, Kansas received notice that we're going to receive an additional $70 million of obligation authority through FHWA. And that is really just part of what they call the August redistribution. And this is a message for really for WAMPO. And I think there's an opportunity here for KDOT and WAMPO to work together to maybe give us the opportunity to collect more money next year. And the reason I say that is we actually had the ability to take on more through the August redistribution, but just because of risk on our end, and projects that were left to be obligated before the end of the federal fiscal year, we really had to kind of cut back to what we thought we were responsibly able to take. We still think $70 million is a pretty good take for Kansas. It's more than we've ever taken, at least in the last 15 years. So, it's really an opportunity for us to do more, but I think we can do even better next year. And really what that means is a, partnership between, mostly our MPOs and KDOT to try to commit to getting projects let and obligated sooner, so that we have more assurance that we can take on more of this potential federal money that will be out there. So we look forward to furthering that conversation, and I think we'll be ready to have that conversation with you guys later this fall. But with that, I would be happy to hear what you guys have to say, and if you guys have some questions for me or KDOT. I know we have some KDOT staff in the audience. I may have to phone a friend if the question is too hard. So thank you again for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you, Secretary Reed. Any questions? Wow, we covered it all. I know one question came up at the South Central Kansas Transportation Coalition. Mike, you may address it even during your presentation later, but the local consult is going to be on October 18th here in Wichita. I can't win at WSU. Any thoughts, comments, suggestions? Any idea of the format?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I would have gone into a little detail on that. I do think Mike Moriarty is going to be covering it. And I won't try to steal too much of Mike's thunder, but yeah, I think the format's going to be similar to previous years. There'll be a little bit of an informational session at the beginning and then breakout groups. Similar format in terms of we're going to provide a kind of pre-populated list of projects that have been identified by priorities from previous local consult or ones that have come up since. And just an open invitation to everyone in the community. I mean, I would love to have record crowds, standing room only at these events, because that means that people are truly engaged and interested in what we're doing at KDOT and really how we can partner with groups like WAMPO to help deliver real solutions for communities. So I open invitation for obviously everybody in the room, but friends, neighbors, anybody who wants to have a say in transportation. And I know South Central Kansas and Wichita really have a lot of priorities. There's a lot of things, but you guys do such a good job of coming together and really focusing on what is the most pressing priority. And I applaud you all for doing that.
Fantastic. Thanks for the kind words.
Yeah.
Any thoughts? Anything else? All right. Well, we'll let you get back to your busy schedule, but thank you. If you're ever available on the second Tuesday of the month from 3 to 5, you know where to find us right here.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you for your service. Thank you for all you do.
Yep.
All right. Next on the agenda, we have Federal Highway Administration update with Rick. Welcome, Rick.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Becky and Chairwoman. Great to be back with you all. I think Calvin stole some of my thunder but that's a good thing. So yes, as Calvin was, as Secretary Reed was talking about a bit earlier about August redistribution, this is one of the topics we've talked about for next year. We are looking at potentially another good amount of money that could be potentially available. So we're highly encouraging the state working with you all and the other MPOs and locals to identify if there could be some projects that might be able. Are you all able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I just had something on my screen saying unmute myself. Apologies on that. So yes, so that's a key thing I would say that's coming up. This is for federal highways, this is the end of our fiscal year, which ends on September 30th. We are waiting to see what our appropriation will be for next year, but given that we do have contract authority, we're expecting a fairly seamless movement into the new federal fiscal year starting October 1st, our federal fiscal year 24. Couple of other things that I would make mention of: the CAMPO meeting that was held at the offices of WAMPO. Excellent group. There's just a lot of innovation happening. I had the chance to attend and just kind of hear. So I definitely encourage WAMPO to work with your fellow MPOs, and there's some just really truly innovative ideas happening. Even the smaller MPOs, Manhattan is just doing fantastic work, especially with STEP program and Bike-Ped and many other things. NEVI is a huge program that's continuing to advance. I know that staff here have talked about that. It's definitely a very strong agency emphasis. We're definitely going to be seeing more money and activities, and KDOT really has been a true champion of this initiative, advancing their plan on NEVI. For those that had attended the Kansas Innovation Summit, it was a great opportunity to hear from Tammy Alexander and folks from KDOT talk about all the work that's starting. We have a ways to go, but we're headed in the right direction. Also, just wanted to key in on comment that Calvin had talked about with local bridge funding. We truly have here in Kansas a great partnership where the Bill program and the Ike program together are aligning extremely well. I will personally be at the local consult meeting in Wichita on October 18th, and we'll be attending about half of them. My staff will be going to everyone. So in addition to KDOT being there present, my folks and I will be there, and I will definitely be there in Wichita. So I'll have a chance to talk with you all about what your local needs are. Beyond that, in terms of personnel, we are advertising for our planner position to replace Cecily Cochran. Definitely encourage if someone you might know in a locality that's interested, that would be super. That's all I really have. Any questions for me today?
Questions for Rick? I was able to attend a little bit of Campo. I had to leave for some other things, but it seemed like it was a great event, a good group, and it was an honor for WAMPO to be able to host it right here. So thanks for attending as well.
Yeah, it was a great meeting.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Next, we have KDOT Safe System Approach Safer Vehicle with Ashley.
Thank you. I was just going to introduce that Susan and Vanessa will be speaking about the Safe Systems Approach. This is the third of the quarterly presentation meetings, and so we'll have two more after this. They're working their way through all of the parts. Okay. Vanessa, do you want to share your screen or do you want us to advance?
It is up to you. I just tried to screen share and it said I didn't have presentation availability. So if you can do it, we can just ask you to advance slides.
That sounds good. Nick, you got that? Okay.
Perfect. Well, thank you everyone for having us today. We've presented before. My name is Vanessa Spartan and I'm with the Kansas Department of Transportation. This is part of a series that we're going over the Safe System Approach and its 5 objectives or elements. Today, we're going to be talking about the safer vehicle objective. If you go to the next slide, please. Joining me today is Susan DeCourcy. She is NHTSA's Region 7 Administrator. And I asked Susan to participate in this particular presentation because there's a lot of work that NHTSA is doing out of really out of their headquarters and things that they're doing in the region to try and advance the vehicle safety features. Once Susan goes over that federal perspective, then I'll talk about efforts that are underway in Kansas. And next slide, and then we'll turn it over to you, Susan.
All right, thank you. Can everyone hear me? Perfect, thank you so much. So from the last meeting, we went through the safe system approach, so I don't really want to go over this again. But just as a reminder, there's the key elements that it's a responsibility that is shared by all. We all are stakeholders and we all have a piece to play in that. And really safety, we want to be proactive, not reactive, and to be able to identify and address those problems up front. And then redundancy is crucial, because if one part fails, there's other parts that kick in that can be effective as well. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, next slide. So this slide is talking about what we have on our website, and it's related to safer vehicles. It's a snapshot of a tracking dashboard, and it's available for the public viewing. It's updated quarterly, and this image is just for those actions that deal with the safer vehicles. If you look in the top right-hand corner, there's a filter that you can filter in, filter out, whatever topics you want. But these really are talking about the systems and the features that help prevent crashes and minimize the impact to the occupants and to those non-occupants, such as pedestrians and bicyclists. Next slide. Here's some specific actions that NHTSA has completed so far. And we have a website that we inform consumers and the public about advanced driving systems. And the website is listed there, and we provide videos, animations, descriptions as a way to help the consumer ensure that the language and materials we provide are useful and resonate to consumers. And then in March of 22, we proposed a significant update to our 5-star safety ratings, also known as NCAP, which stands for New Car Assessment Program. And part of that focuses on a 10-year roadmap. And we are looking at new driver assistance technologies, ways to strengthen testing procedures, and looking at distractions, alcohol, seat belts. So far, we've received over 4,000 comments. And then in June, NHTSA and our Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration released a final rule for the rear underride protection. And this requires rear impact guards on those trailers and semi-trailers with sufficient strength and energy absorption to protect occupants of compact and subcompact cars if they were rear-ending a trailer at 35 miles an hour. So these are the specific actions that have been completed so far. And next slide. And these are the ones that are in progress or we are preparing to work on. If you can go back one. There you go. Thank you. This is a notice published in March of 22. And as I noted in the previous slide, it included steps to list on crash avoidance ratings, our NCAP, and it has information on the Monroney label, which is that window sticker at the point of sale of a new vehicle. And we're requesting comments for ideas on how to provide information to the consumer. And we want to review those comments, and we want to assess so that the next steps will be able to provide a proposed for change to make those labels more user and readable. And then we have been working hard at it, the advancing automated emergency braking, also known as AEB. In both motor carrier and NHTSA, we have new standard language for the AEB systems in heavy vehicles, what we did this past June. And then in May, we released a notice of proposed rulemaking to require automated braking and pedestrian automated emergency braking for passenger cars and light trucks. And so this is going to be very beneficial to help with the pedestrian fatality increase. And as I mentioned, we're really taking steps to look at new ways to minimize the crash worthiness of pedestrian crashes and to be able to protect those people crossing in crosswalks, and really to minimize a car when coming in contact with a pedestrian. And so this is going to help a car brake or know when to brake if they sense a pedestrian in front of them. And then we're also continuing to work on a seamless approach for detecting impaired drivers. And also the automated driving systems. We have a reporting system that is required. It's called a standing general order that incidents be reported to us, depending on the criteria, within a 24-hour period of time or up to a couple of weeks on certain level 2 crashes. And so this is a way for us to start learning about the automated driving systems and the crashes that are occurring and some of the things that we can try to help avoid in the future. And then also looking at timely ways to have a better data collection. And our special crash investigation division is working to determine which types of crashes to be investigated. And then also we're working on a rule that's also listed in the unified agenda for regulatory and deregulatory actions for rear seatbelt reminder systems. As you all probably know, we have them in the front seats, but we don't have in the rear. So we're looking for ways to get that incorporated into the vehicles. And last slide for me, please. And then just wrapping up, the overall vehicle safety efforts at NHTSA is some of the offices that we have within NHTSA support the safer vehicles by our data through the National Center for Statistics and Analysis. We have our vehicle safety research, which looks at safe testing of motor vehicle and motor vehicle equipment, and also our rulemaking to make sure that the vehicle safety standards are being met, fuel economy regulations, anti-theft, and the operation and development of our 5-star rating systems is being met. We have an enforcement division, which deals with the safety standards to ensure motor vehicle manufacturers are falling in line with our safety standards. We have enforcement for recalls if those vehicles have a particular problem, and we help do VIN checks, the vehicle identification number. On our website, people can get on there to see if they have a recall. And then odometer fraud investigation, and it's hard to believe odometers are still being rolled back, but yes, they are. And we have an odometer fraud team that is out there still tracking down those people who are doing that. And then our Office of Communications, where all of the stuff you see on our website through our traffic safety marketing.gov website is all the campaigns we have. They develop the materials for that. And we really hope that everyone will get on there and utilize what's being developed. So that's it for the safer vehicle from NHTSA. And I'm going to turn it over to Vanessa.
Thanks, Susan. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. So what I'm going to talk about with efforts underway in Kansas is what we're doing at the Drive to Zero Coalition, but also some work that the Bureau of Innovative Technologies at KDOT has been leading. So part of this safer vehicle element is to talk about advanced safety features that are now available in connected and autonomous vehicles. And on this slide, I'm really focusing on connected vehicles because they're already on the market. They're already out on the streets. So this graphic at right just talks about the different types of vehicle technologies that are in place. So there's vehicle to pedestrians, vehicle to infrastructure, vehicle to cloud, vehicle to vehicle, vehicle to everything. There's a lot of different alphabet soup in there. But the big point being from a safety standpoint is that there's new features in place to help prevent crashes and reduce injury severity. So I list some examples here, like lane departure warning systems, lane keeping, automatic emergency braking, as Susan was talking about, adaptive cruise control, speed limiters or speed governors, hazard warning systems, things like that. One of the other things you heard me talk about in the post-crash care presentation was about how now connected vehicles a lot of them can do crash detection, and some of them are communicating those crash incidences to emergency dispatch, which has a lot of potential to save lives, particularly in rural areas. And then the last point that is a valuable one is that we actually can purchase connected vehicle data from these third-party companies to aggregate the data, and we can understand trends as a proxy for safety characteristics. So we can look at things like, where is speeding occurring? Where is harsh braking or harsh maneuvers occurring? Where do we see sudden acceleration, right? Those types of patterns that we might see, we don't just have to look at crash reports. We have another way of telling us that there is something happening at a location or on a corridor or intersection. If you go to the next slide. So from the coalition standpoint, this is the executive body that I've talked about before that has 21 members on it that represent state and federal agencies, nonprofit and advocacy groups, and we have a private sector partner. If you click the next button, some circles will show up. So I circled here some of the members organizations that will have a role in the safer vehicle objective and how to advance it in Kansas. But beyond these that are circled here, I would say that anyone that is an employer that purchases vehicle fleets, you have a decision to make as to whether or not you procure advanced safety features in those fleets that you buy, right? And what that means for your vehicles on the road and your employees using those vehicles. If you go to the next slide, I just wanted to provide some examples of what I mean by like the Department of Revenue. So they deal with vehicle licensing. Highway Patrol deals with commercial vehicle safety. Department of Education deals with school bus safety. The insurance department deals with the insurance marketplace in Kansas. The DOT, which is who I work for, we have our connected autonomous vehicle vision plan that we put together, but we also, as part of the State Highway Safety Office, we're going to be doing some stuff related to vehicle heat stroke campaigns and vehicle recall notifications and things like that in partnership with NHTSA as well. You go to the next slide. So I want to talk a little bit about the Connected Autonomous Vision Plan and implementation effort. So this is led by our Bureau of Innovative Technologies at KDOT, and I received all the information from them on this. But so the big thing is that this plan identifies opportunities, challenges, and next steps for the state in terms of advancing these vehicles in the state. So they have legislative action, they have state agency blueprints, and an implementation plan. They have 5 types of initiatives. So they have data initiatives, agency and organization initiatives, partnerships, policy, legislation, or regulation, and public education and outreach. In terms of the state agencies that each have their own blueprint, there's Department of Agriculture, Department of Commerce, Division of Emergency Management, Department of Revenue, Department of Transportation, Information Security Office, Insurance Department, the Legislator, Highway Patrol, the Kansas Traffic Safety Resource Office, and the Kansas Turnpike Authority. So you can see it's a pretty broad sweep already, right, that have been identified in this plan with particular action items in mind. I gave you 2 links here, so if you wanted to dive into this a little bit further, you can. If you go to the next slide, I wanted to just paint a picture of what they have in here. So there's a mission, right, for focusing on a connected and autonomous future in Kansas. The vision, though, really focuses on this being a market-driven process that is still evolving. And so that requires partnership, but that also requires a little bit of a flexible vision. So it really focuses on goal alignment as to what kind of shared goals occur between these state agencies and the role of transportation in the state. If you go to the next slide. One of the items that is being implemented out of that plan is a commercial and agricultural pilot corridor on US 83 out in western Kansas. So what this pilot includes is using data and information to dispatch directly to the connected commercial vehicles on the corridor to tell them information about traffic, weather, parking availability, other types of information metrics to let them know and make their trip as wisely and safely as possible. So there is a lot of information that's still coming out through that process as they're developing this project. But I wanted to let you know that it's not just a plan that is sitting on the shelf, that the DOT and partner agencies are actively implementing it. If you go to the next slide. The other thing that is available, I know you all have heard from this, but our Bureau of Innovative Technology has a grant application for local agencies to apply for. So I wanted to give an example. City of Wichita a few years ago applied for Greenwich Road for roadside radio units. And so it's for a 4.5-mile corridor on Greenwich Road between Kellogg and K96, where they're working on connecting KDOT's fiber to those radio units on the system to improve the efficiency and operation of that corridor. And so there's a KDOT and city fiber sharing agreement, but also it allows for KDOT to leverage that fiber communication as a redundancy for the metropolitan area for transportation communication. So here I have 2 points of contact because I really got this information from my colleague, but Mike Armour at City of Wichita is the main point of contact, and then Mitch Southers at Kansas DOT for the Innovative Technologies Grant. If you go to the next slide, and I think it might be one of my last ones. I always end with, this initiative is part of the Drive to Zero Coalition, and anybody that wants to join it and support it, we have emphasis area teams. You can listen in on coalition meetings. And then in our next strategic highway safety plan update, we'll be getting into topics like safer vehicles and the other safe system objectives in Kansas. If you go to the next slide, I think it has Susan's and my information. And then we are available for questions or comments.
Fantastic. Thank you. Any questions for Susan or Vanessa? I don't see any, so you must have done an outstanding job. Thank you very much. Thanks for all you do. And thanks for joining us today. So next, as part of our innovations presentation, we try and highlight a new program or just something that's interesting and unique, especially in terms of innovation. And so this month we are joined by AJ Wilson. I just got to meet AJ Wilson with KDOT, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Do I get the clicker? I'd love to. Yeah, you can also use the arrow buttons on the keyboard. I move around too much. No, that's okay. Yes, so I'm AJ Wilson. I'm the area engineer for KDOT down in Winfield. I have Cowley, Sumner, and Harper counties are in my jurisdiction. So I was asked to come and give a brief update on, well, I guess I should use a microphone. I can't walk around that much. So update on how we've been using UAS systems in KDOT. So before I get going, I have to admit that getting my drone stuck in a tree wasn't the worst thing that happened to me, but it's up there. That was a joke. It was a joke. Thank you. So, yes, there was my background. Yeah, I went to K-State, and this was me back at the championship last year. That guy probably looks a lot younger than who you see right here because this joined my life a little bit ago. So she was 6 weeks old and 2 days. So it's a crazy madhouse. If anyone ever asks you what it's like to have 5 kids, it's just like my favorite comedian says, imagine you're drowning and someone hands you a baby. That's been my life. So forgive me if I stutter, if I seem like I'm out of it. Anyway, so it was back in 17. How much time do you want me to use here? Because I can talk for as long as you want. All right, I'll shorten this a little bit. So back in 17, there was a project that was over a river, and it was a rather big one. You see what was before and after there, and it was significant, and it was something that you couldn't really see from the highway. So I decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to use some money to go buy a drone, and that's what I did. That project has had several iterations on it, and it looks vastly different down there by the Ninnascaw River in US 81. This was the first one I bought. It was $55. It was a bad idea. It lasted about 6 minutes. So then I ended up buying a Mavic. It's one of the first Mavics that's come out. DJI has come out with several different iterations that are significantly better than this one. It was still pretty dang cool, but it was cool. It was small. It was foldable. We used it intermittently for things like calculating quantities of stockpiles. You can see right there, we calculated one that was part of this project, and it was really accurate. I mean, we were within like a few percent. So with what we were using it for, like it was with basic small cameras, and we were able to achieve very good accuracies. Anyway, so the way how I decided to do it is I got myself and the 2 people that can be in charge of things. It was myself, my boss, and my procurement officer. Showed them what drones can do, and we had a new one on my desk a few weeks later. So anyway, since then, KDOT has been very involved. I was doing stuff out in the field. KDOT in the background has done some things to help create one of the safest programs in the nation. We actually, KDOT ranked second in operations and safety organization according to the AUVSI. A few months after that, we bought 14 DJI Mavic 2s and Matrices, 2 Matrices, and we've been using them. I wanted to show you who was it that won first place that year. Here's KDOT. We're usually known for our excellent highways. NASA won first place. So we are also known for creating one of the safest drone operations in the nation. We combined with K-State. They also won second place in training and education. So that's how KDOT has implemented UAS into our service, is by partnering with K-State Salina, who does all of our training. So I'm going to clip through a few of these things here. So we got pilots. We are all current. We have about 20 to 30 pilots in KDOT right now. Kind of fluctuates, but let's see. Let's keep going. This is all boring stuff. So we also require, one of the things that keeps us safe is we always require another person to be out there on the job with us while we're flying. That sometimes is hindering because it's difficult to find that other person to go out there and fly with us. But eventually we've been able to get this program going for long enough that we're able to get that happening. We can also have, they also gave us a way that we can fly without a VO, provided certain things are working out there. And it's very rare that we can do it, but it does happen. I've got one project where I can fly out there without anybody with me. So since then, we've had a few, like I said, we had a few batches of pilots. We do have a different version of a drone that was bought by our bridge management, which is significant because after we trained our third batch of pilots, you can't see what happened there, but we've actually swapped out our drone fleet. So I had mentioned that we had originally bought about 14 DJI drones. And since then we have, and this is just recently, this was back in July of this year, we swapped them out for Skydio drones. Reason being is they are made in America. So we have 15 of those Skydio S2s, 3 Skydio X2s, and then a smattering of a few others that are still in use around the state. Why was a switch? Like I had mentioned, there have been a lot of DJI bans going around in different states. Our state was like a little bit worried that that may come our way, so we preemptively decided to swap them out because of all the bans that were going out, like I mentioned. So one of the cool things that we have done so far is with some of the bridges. This is one of those bridges that you have that the only way to do the proper inspection of it is with a snooper truck. You have to shut down a lane of traffic on top of it. And here is a picture of using one of our drones. We were able to get up into this area and see some of the damage that was happening, some of the corrosion. So Skydio platform, they were able to fly in between these girders without any worries. The Skydio tells us that they are crash proof. However, I've crashed 2 of them. So it was my fault, not theirs, they say. But it was just a demonstration, and we tested the limits. We found those limits. So, but majority of the time they can be crash proof. So they're a very good product. What's excellent about their system is that they're able to make a 3D model with a lot of their bridges and can show a lot of different things, especially. So here's another bridge that we have out there up north in Riley County. I believe this goes over Milford Lake, not Milford. Can't think of the name. Tuttle Creek. And it is over a mile long. This is one that they have to shut down a lane and use a snooper truck to inspect every so often. So this is an example of one of the things that they are using, and they are actually looking at doing being able to fly underneath the deck and be able to get a map essentially of all of the delaminations that are happening underneath the deck without shutting down a lane of traffic. That's pretty excellent. Also, this is from John Culberson, our KDOT Bridge Management Engineer. He says, we're hopefully that we can use these drones as a tool to reduce the frequency which we have to use snooper trucks to inspect. FHWA requires that you have to be within an arm's reach of certain elements to be able to consider it to be, check the box and say, hey, we've inspected it. I know that Minnesota DOT is working with FHWA to hopefully make it so that you don't have to do it as often, provided you have some sort of drone inspection. So we'll see where that happens. Like I said, we're working on this. We also have a few others, like you had seen in the that other slide about some of the drones that KDOT has. This is one that was purchased up in Salina. It is a fixed wing. It is able to take off vertically and then take off like a regular airplane. And I think I have a video that will maybe work. Do I click a button?
I have to say yes. You could take off.
That happens all autonomously, automatically. A lot of these ones you can plan the flight way in advance and then send it off, and it will go and do it and then land, and you won't have to touch a button. So, and then it'll land in a similar fashion. I'm going to skip that because I want to talk about this next thing. So some of the things that we've done with KDOT. So before and after pictures. Here's a bridge that we have down on K55 that is in the middle of being replaced. I talked about this one. This was something that we had here in Wichita. Sure you might remember this.
Breaking news right now at noon. If you're going to be hitting the road soon, listen up. Northbound I-135 is closed. So there's a fire at a construction site, and the fire is actually up on a platform. So that's where crews are working to get this fire under control. But in the meantime, authorities are diverting traffic to K250.
Push a button again.
Breaking news right now at noon. If you're going to be hitting the road soon, listen up. Northbound I-135 is closed. So there's a fire at a construction site, and the fire is actually up on a platform. So that's where crews are working to get this fire under control. But in the meantime, authorities are diverting traffic to K250.
Okay, that was just the end of it. Sorry. So that was a bad day, to say the least. We had this concrete pier that was poured, and then it got cold. And so they turned their heaters on to keep the surface of it warm. And then the heaters got a little bit too close to some of the false work and caught fire. So it got really hot. And then fire department came out and doused it, got it really cold. Then it got cold again. So we had negative 10 degrees, or it was 10 degrees. And I'm pretty sure there were icicles coming off of that false work after that. So that is not the ideal conditions that you want for concrete to be curing. So this is one example where we got the drones out and we were able to take some analysis of this using non-destructive methods to see whether or not that concrete had actually been damaged. So this I think is the coolest video I have. This was taken, so I gathered with a Matrice 210 and a Zenmuse XT2 dual sensor. So this can actually take thermal images in the air. And they were able to look at this and analyze this to see whether or not there was any surface delaminations. Anyway, so long story short, they did actually end up still taking cores on that pier to see whether or not that concrete had any abnormalities, and it all looked fine. And the thermal imaging said it looked fine. So we have that one data point that says, hey, all the data merged, it worked. Which is good because that pier currently has traffic on it right now. So let's see, there's a number of other things that we've done. I'm going to cut this short here, but we've gone out and we've seen our mixing strips with all of our material. We go out there and we get, we're able to look at one of these spots here and find the volume of what one of these spots, what one of these piles has. So create reports, send it out to people. It's good stuff. I think I'm pretty much at the end here. That is. So that was it. Any questions for me?
Councilman Fry.
Yes, AJ, curious about your fleet and how do we get our hands on your hand-me-downs?
Those were sold. they were given back to Skydio. There was actually a buyback program for when we did that. So from what I hear, they use them for Ukraine. Actually, it was actually for, I was kidding on that. They use them for anti-UAS training. So people that are being trained to take them down, they use the ones that we are selling them back for that. So that's kind of cool.
Any other questions for AJ? Very interesting. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Thanks for all you do and for joining us today. Come back anytime. Next, we have MTP 2050 survey results with Ashley and Julian.
Yes, thank you. Over the summer, we did a ton of outreach about the first survey for the MTP plan development process. And so we wanted to share the results with you. We received 832 responses from May 13th to July 31st. And we had copies in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese, both online and in paper copies. This slide shows all the places we went to talk to people throughout the summer. We had 27 outreach events, 13 listening sessions, and spent over 200 staff hours doing this outreach. And now Julian's going to talk about the survey results and all the work he did. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So as Ashley said, I did compile the data and I used it to create some graphs that I'm going to present to you. The first one I wanted to show was this one that shows the density by zip code of how many respondents or responses we received. And as you can predict, towards the center of Wichita, we received quite a few more responses. It's because we have a denser population here. And in Western Kansas, there were some zip codes that didn't have any responses. And so we are open to any recommendations on how to reach out to people in Mount Hope, Cheney, Colwich, places like that where we didn't receive any responses. In future rounds of public engagement, we want to make sure that we have everybody's voice heard. So we'll look into that. If anyone has any recommendations, events that we can table at, organizations that we can contact, we would love that. And then I'm going to show you a few of these graphs. They're a little bit difficult to read at first, but I promise that their format is very helpful. So these charts are arranged in order of popularity from the left to the right. So the left is the most popular response that we received. And the gray bar at the top that you'll see consistently through all of these graphs shows responses that were unable to be used because people filled them out incorrectly, or people just choosing not to fill out this portion of the survey. And that's about 12% of respondents didn't fill them out correctly. But getting on to the questions, we asked people to rank these transportation investments and from 1 to 8 in order of how important they are to them. And you can see that, sorry about that. Yeah, all the way on the left, we have this large yellow bar here, which shows that maintenance of existing transportation infrastructure was the most popular response here. About 29% of respondents said that this was their first priority. And over all the way on the right, you'll see that large maroon bar shows that 27% of respondents said beautifying the space between roads and sidewalks. So like that green space was their lowest priority. And that's a trend that we're going to see in the following slide as well. So we also asked, what do you see as your priorities for transportation investment in the greater Wichita region? These first two responses, very popular. A third of respondents said that transportation improvement that increases safety for all users and reduces traffic congestion was their first priority. That's pretty unsurprising. People want safe roads and they don't want them to be congested. And then the second response, making the transportation system more equitable and accessible to improve access to all destinations in the Wichita region. That was nice to see. The following two responses rank pretty closely to one another, so I won't talk about them. But then the final response, more than 1/3 of people said that reducing greenhouse gas emissions and minimizing air quality effects from the transportation system was their lowest priority. So that goes hand in hand with the previous chart that I showed you about beautifying green space, when we ask people about the transportation system, they aren't terribly concerned with the environment. And so you'll notice on the following few slides that we have some underlines right here. And that's because those are our MTP 2050 objectives. And we asked respondents to rank these goals and the goals for our objectives. Now, these particular objectives and goals were created by the Plan Advisory Committee, which consists of members from Sedgwick County, Mays, Derby, City of Wichita, Wichita Public Transit, and other organizations. And so for the goal of creating a connected and multimodal transportation system, about 30% of respondents ranked this as their first. That's another trend that we saw in the previous graph with people saying they wanted the more equitable transportation system. And then over here in the middle, supporting economic growth by decreasing commute time had some mixed responses. You'll see that it has a pretty large or decently sized yellow bar on the bottom showing that a fair amount of people said that this was their first priority. But then that large blue bar at the top, that shows how many people say that this was their last priority. It was actually tied for the same amount of people who said that reducing single person vehicle trips was their last priority. So that was pretty interesting to look at. It's an interesting data point. Next, we asked people about equity and accessibility. Improving access to basic human needs and services ranked as the first priority for almost 50% of respondents. Almost half the people who responded put this as their number one. And then the following two options, improving access for older adults and people with disabilities, and increased improvements in underserved and disadvantaged communities. Those ranked very close to one another with access for older adults and people with disabilities, just slightly outranking the underserved and disadvantaged communities. Next, we asked about safety and reliability. And for this one, we split them into 7 objectives. Most popular of our objectives was reducing fatalities and serious injuries, which of course would rank as the top. As we've seen in previous graphs, people focus on safety and congestion the most. And then the other objectives that we had, they had a wide range of responses. They are pretty middling compared to the first place and the last place. We can see that improving the predictability of travel times is not a high priority for most of the people who took this survey. Next, we asked about environmental and financial stewardship. So you can see that utilizing cost-benefit analysis when selecting projects was the priority for 1/3 of respondents. That was their first priority, and nearly 1/3 of respondents said that it was their last priority. So that's pretty interesting. When we ask people about economics, as we've seen in previous slides, these responses usually have mixed reviews. And then the rest of the objectives received less mixed responses, and they were put in order accordingly to popularity. So for this following graph, oh, sorry, do I have any questions about the ranking graphs that I just showed? Nope. Great. So survey respondents were allowed to choose as many as 5 responses for what they believed was the reason for congestion in the Wichita area. And keep in mind that this is their perception of why they think that there is congestion in the Wichita area. We asked them to limit themselves to 5 responses. A lot of people just marked all of these responses down. But as with previous charts, it's organized by the popularity of the response. The top 5 being construction, peak hour traffic volumes, crashes, distracted drivers, and railroad crossings. These are the reasons that people who took our survey believe that we have congestion in the Wichita region. Following that vein, we wanted to ask them where we have congestion, where they perceive that there is congestion. And so to help you read this map a little bit, the intersections where there is the most reported congestion are displayed through the heat map dots. So the brighter the dot, the more people said that they experience congestion in that area. And then it's a little bit more difficult to see, but the corridors, which are highlighted in pink, mark congestion along those roadways. So the thicker the pink line, the more people experience congestion along those roadways. As you might expect, all along Kellogg, people say that they experience congestion. And then we have a few different roadways like 21st, I-135, Rock. A few of these, we had minimum responses on these. Most people honestly just put Kellogg when we asked them about congestion, which makes sense. We do experience a lot of congestion there. And then we also wanted to ask them how they feel about safety in the Wichita area. And again, we asked people to mark intersections and corridors where they felt unsafe. And it looks very similar to our congestion map. It is a little brighter because a lot more people responded to the safety question. But very similar to the congestion question, safety. People say that they experience, they feel less safe along Kellogg, along these busier highways and intersections. And those are all of the graphs that I have to show you today. Are there any questions about the safety or congestion graphs? Okay, then we can move on.
I do have two questions, if that's okay, Julian. Where can people find this data?
So this will be available on the WAMPO website, and it should be in your meeting packets as well.
Excellent. And then how are we going to disseminate it? We have all this great data. You spent lots of time on it, right? Good information. Maybe our municipalities can use it. How are we going to get this information out?
Right, so we've created a report on this, just highlighting all of the significant findings. There were several other graphs that I didn't include just for time purposes. So we asked demographic questions as well. And we asked about like income, and there were a few other things that we asked people about, such as like the language they speak, things like that. And we're going to make a few social media posts based off of all of these findings. We're going to, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, great.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
So we'll also have this on our website, and we can send out a press release if you think that would be good to do. And we'll be using this as part of the next phase of planning. So the next phase of the MTP process is alternative scenarios. And so this information will help form those alternative scenarios, which will then be another survey in the winter time.
Excellent. Thank you. All good answers. Next is Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan Survey results, and it's Ashley and Marcella.
Yes, thank you. So Marcella has been working on the Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan. And so we wanted to give you an update on the results from this survey, which was available from June 16th to July 31st. And we received 262 survey responses. And staff went to lots of places to try to talk to people. Some of them were duplicate with the MTP survey and the electric vehicle survey, and then others were specific just for this process. We spent about 80 to 95 hours trying to reach people to take our survey. We went to the Wichita Transit Center 8 times, talking to people as they got on or off their bus, the Mays Farm and Art Market, Starkey, the VA, and then the Convoy of Hope event as well. And so Marcella will go over some of her results. There's a lot more on the report online, but we wanted to cut it down for time's sake. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. So I'm gonna be going over a few of those results. And this can also be found in Appendix 8 of the plan that's currently open for public comment. We use these survey results to guide the needs assessment that's also included in the plan draft. And it can be found in part 2 of that plan. So I'm just gonna go over a few of them for time's sake. So we ask what accommodations do they need? It's worth noting that 59% of the responses included some kind of accommodation, including things like help with carrying, storing purchases or other possessions, wheelchair accessible vehicles, lift ramps, assistance from the curb at my origin of destination to the curb of my destination. We also asked them if there are any places that would like to go, but they're not able to with the existing services. A lot of people decided to pick single responses, and that's why 18% of the responses are included in the other. And with these responses, they include things like no, and church, or going to school, or shopping, or the social security office as well. And also places like job or place of employment. Reading through the survey responses, a lot of people mentioned that they would like access to like third shift for the work, and also medical appointments and activities they're not able to with existing services. And a lot of them don't mention like times. And question number 9 asks if there are any changes to the transportation service in the region that will make them using more appealing or easier for them. And a lot of people selected in later at 9 as one of their responses, and more routes and operate on the weekends. And again, this can be found on Appendix 8 of the plan that's currently open for public comment. And public comments period ends on September 23rd of 2023. And next step, we're also gonna be presenting that draft plan to TAG for their September meeting. And we're gonna be presented to TPB on the October 10 meeting for approval. Anyone has any questions?
Any questions for Marcella? Great job. Thank you. We are data rich. All right. Next is committee and partnership updates is regarding the executive committee. The next meeting is November 2nd at 11 a.m. It's in this building and it's over in the MAPD conference room, and it's just a mere 50 days away. And if you're running for election like I am, you're counting down, and that's 5 days before the election. So that's why I know that. So next, transportation spotlight, the Hayesville Hustle with Kristen.
Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for having me back again. My name is Krista McDaniel. I am the Director of Senior Services and Transportation with the City of Hayesville. I will just give you a little information about our service. We have a 14-passenger vehicle that is a paratransit bus. We're fully equipped to accommodate those with special needs and disabled. Our hours of operation are 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. Our transportation is available to citizens of all ages, and our drivers only accept pre-purchased tokens as payment. Our service is $2 token per one-way ride. So, next slide, please. Our service area is available to all persons residing in the City of Hayesville city limits. Rides must originate from designated pickup boundaries, and those boundaries are east of Hoover, south of 55th Street, west of Hydraulic, and north of 95th. The bus will transport patrons within city limits of Hayesville, and we go up to 47th and Broadway to connect with Wichita Transit. And we go to 63rd and K15 for Kohl's and Lowe's and Walmart in Derby. And then last year we expanded to Rock Road in Derby. Next slide, please. And these are just our statistics. We began operation in November of 2020. So we have had substantial growth. And so far this year, we have provided 2,075 rides for those within age of 8 to 96. Next slide. And I just wanted to keep it brief and thank you all for having us back. And I'm open to any questions if you have any.
Any question for Kristen? All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thanks for joining us today. Next is Kansas Department of Transportation, Mike.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for letting KDOT be such a fixture on today's agenda too. I feel like I'm one of several speakers today. I did want to add a few more details to the Secretary's rundown of the run of show, I guess I'll say, for local consult. So each of the events are about a 3-hour session. The first half hour is going to be a welcome, in your case, from your district engineer, Nick Squires, and then a KDOT update from Secretary Reed. The next half hour or so will be a project overview that'll be led again by the district engineer and our chief engineer, Greg Schieber. And that will also include some instructions for the breakout sessions during that segment. Then the next hour will be the breakout sessions themselves, sandwiched between some breaks for the attendees. And the last hour of the event will be a recap of the breakout sessions, plus some closing remarks from Secretary Reed. So about 3 hours total. So 2021 was virtual. It was different than this year will be. Our last in person was in 2019 under the Eisenhower program. I don't know if anybody was at the sessions in 2019. We did have dedicated time for project presentations to the entire group back in 2019. We're not going to do that this year. So any discussions or very short presentations will need to take place in those breakout sessions. And with that, I can certainly address any questions that folks may have.
Councilmember Frye, do you have a question? Oh, any questions?
How are you
from
going
Mike?
to divide up breakout sessions?
It'll be very scientific like we always do it. You'll receive an agenda as you walk in, and on the back will probably be a color dot, and your whatever color you is, that's the room you go to.
I'm sorry, I missed. Did you say who determines the breakout session? Does already scheduled and identified what those are?
No, when you arrive at the event, you'll pick up an agenda. In years past, we've had some kind of dots on the back of the agenda, then you would proceed to that breakout room.
Right, but have you identified what those breakout presentations are?
No, we have not. We have a list of projects that we pulled together from past events as well as new priorities that we've heard about. Those will be on the board. In addition to the projects, we have other items that we've heard about on the boards as well to try and be as comprehensive as we can with the discussions that take place in the breakout sessions. In those sessions, we'll be talking about our larger capital projects, so the expansion and the modernization type projects. We will also have a multimodal breakout session where non-highway projects can be discussed. For example, the Heartland Flyer is a top issue down here, and that's where those conversations will take place. Does that address your question?
You're getting there. Thank you.
We can talk
We
later.
prefer
if we have to.
Heartland Fryer anyway.
Understood.
Any other questions for Mike? Thank you for the updates and thank you for helping to get Secretary Reed here. You did a great job and made it easy. Next, Wichita Metro Division, and Tom is on vacation. So Nick.
Yes, you'll have to bear with me. I'm not as eloquent as Tom is, but as you probably all know, we have ongoing work in the city of Wichita. The North Junction's an ongoing project for the next few years. We're continuing to progress on that. We've had US 54 over by I-235 under construction with the bridge repair. We're hoping to continue to have that and have it finished up in the near future. K96 overlay over from 135 down to 54. We're working on that continuing. We also have a couple concrete patching projects on I-235 and K15 that hopefully will be finishing up in the near future before the temperatures get cold. And I'm sure there's probably other things that Tom would love to tell you about, but he didn't leave me with that information. So I'm going to plead the ignorant at this point. If you have any questions, I would try to answer them.
Any questions for Nick? Put him on the hot seat. All right, seeing none, last but not least, Federal Highway. Rick, I know you presented before. Anything you want to add?
No, nothing more at this time, but great meeting today. A lot of good engaging speakers.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you very much.
Thank
All
you.
right. With that, I don't see any other business. So next meeting is October 10th. Make sure you mark your calendars for that. We'll see you right here at 3 o'clock. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn. I was thinking no one wanted to leave, but okay. Thank you, Troy, for the motion. Tom, the second. I know we're getting out of here fast. All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed say bye.